So, welcome to Council of Geeks. My name is Nathaniel Wayne, and I am joined again by Ryan Daly, Paul Scavito, Jason Scherer, and we're still talking Avengers Age of Ultron, only this time we're talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, please go away, unless you don't care, in which case stick around. Let's actually start talking Vision. It felt a little like what I would expect a Justice League movie when Superman shows up. It's like, this is the guy who's gonna fix everything. And he looked fine. And actually, I was impressed, like, it was practical.
Major props for going practical.
I was certain he was gonna be a motion capture, but like, that's Paul Bettany and makeup and cool.
First of all, I know this is the spoiler one, but I'm still not even going to say it, just in case. There is the visual gag related to the Vision in this film that floored me. Mm-hmm. At the same time, as soon as it happened, part of me kind of recoiled and said, really overpowered, how are they going to handle this?
He's got an Infinity Stone in his head.
Well, shoots lasers.
It's fine. It's fine.
How much you want to bet that becomes the oh shit, we're all in trouble moment in Infinity Wars when Thanos gets it out of the Vision and effectively renders him into a ragdoll?
No, I think he's going to wear the Vision on his fist.
Huge thing that was missing for me, scenes that were obviously deleted, was Thor coming to the decision that the Vision had to exist. Yeah.
Yes.
That, you know, because like he goes into the pool to go back into his dream.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then the next time you see him, he interrupts everything by bringing the Vision to life with electricity.
Yes. Joss Whedon said that Thor had a lot more that was cut out.
It's almost like Dark World had no impact.
Iron Man 3 had no impact on the beginning of this movie.
I know, it wiped out the ending of Iron Man 3. Oh, by the way, I have the Iron Force. No, wait, didn't you destroy all 42 of your...
I mean, there are some things coming into this that do bug me on that level, but at the same time, you look at the comic books and they do that shit all the damn time.
And the thing is, the fans are going to forgive Iron Man having the Iron Man suits, and they're just aren't.
The thing that was beating me over the head the entire time during this movie was the post 9/11 metaphor.
There were shots at street level of smoke rolling across cars, and it's like, this looks like September 11th.
And then you have the Captain America versus Tony Stark argument. You know, Tony Stark saying, is the paramilitary, I'm going to do what's necessary to destroy the threat, whereas Captain America is the transparent military fighting for all that's good in the world. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's the post 9/11 argument, right?
Yeah. There's one thing that I want to point out, because I don't know where else in the discussion to point this out. Sure. But it was something that I loved. And especially if I want to pick on DC.
I know what you're talking. I know where you're going.
I love that it was a priority that they get civilians to safety.
Yes.
And not just in Act 3. Even when the Hulk Buster fight is going on, when he finds a building to slam the Hulk into, he does a scan of the building like this is a half-constructed building, there is no one in it, and only then does he throw the Hulk. Definitely in contrast to the insane collateral damage that was on display in Man of Steel with no regard. And as the resident animation, that has also been a problem with the new animated DC films as well. There is no regard for collateral damage. I was just, they're heroes. They save people. That's right. They're not just there to kill the bad guy. They save the people. Thank you.
That was one of the aspects that I love, that the conscious effort that they made to save everybody. Okay, so that brings me to something else.
Okay.
As soon as Nick Fury showed up, I was like, shouldn't be here.
He was there because it's an Avengers movie and he kind of has to be. The story did not need him.
Yeah, it could have been Colby Smulders' character who brought the
helicarrier.
Helicarrier.
What were people's feelings on Pietro and Wanda, because we can't call them the other things because Fox owns that.
Yeah.
And screw Fox, I'll just call him Quicksilver.
Okay.
Well, we'll start with him. For my part, considering that I was expecting to be let down, given how awesome he was in Days of Future Past, I liked him much more than I thought I was going to. I was convinced there was no way that this is even going to be entertaining based off what I saw in that film.
Yep.
He did still work. I liked his attitude. He had that bit of cockiness that I liked. And since we are talking the spoilers, I am glad that they finally killed somebody and let him stay dead, because I've been calling for that for about 3 movies now, that somebody aside from a villain needed to die and stay dead.
I felt like their motivations were overly simplistic for what they were doing. It's like, oh, there was a bomb in the room for 2 days that says Stark on it.
Did we actually get the sort of moment of catharsis for them where they reconciled their moment with Tony?
No. They never reconcile with Tony.
They never really have a moment with him at all that I can think of. I mean, they obviously joined the Avengers upon realizing what Ultron is actually trying to do.
Yeah. Because the thing is, their whole motivation in going back to Stark Tower is to stop him. Yeah. So the birth of Vision really kind of throws everybody's personal agenda out the window.
Yeah.
And everybody just has to say, everything that we've been building to for 2 hours, okay, just put that on hold.
Yeah.
We have to save the world. Okay, getting back to Quicksilver, Pietro, I couldn't conceive of them giving him a scene that would be better than what he had in X-Men Days of Future Past. Well, he wasn't a character. He was just that scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was just, it's like, okay.
But it's such a good scene.
It's a really good scene, but comparing the characters, he was a character in this movie, and he might not have stopped the show like he did in X-Men Days of Future Past, but I cared about him a lot more in this one, to the point where I was like, yeah, you had to kill somebody, but I was just really starting to like you, dude.
Our Speedster fan has not really weighed in.
And you're right, I do love me some Speedsters. I thought he was fun to watch. They slowed him down, I would argue, in this movie, and so he was easier to hit. I would say that this was a less powered or nerfed, if you'll excuse the term, version of Quicksilver in this film. And so
understandably, I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was that's why they got rid of him at Days of Future Past.
Also, I loved the look at it. It didn't look like X-Men, and it didn't look like The Flash. Yep. It was a unique version, a unique look for a speedster.
Yep.
I always liked watching him do his stuff.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, he never bored me, really. There were times when I didn't understand, but he never bored me.
All right, so then that brings us to Wanda, Scarlet Witch.
Yep. So I give props to Elizabeth Olsen as an actress in this one, because how hard has it got to be? I mean, number one, the character's powers basically seem to be whatever Joss needed at the time. But how hard has it got to be for an actor or an actress to do this all day? And keep it interesting and keep it intense and like it looked completely.
It felt like
natural.
She was like kind of like weaving a tapestry that she was actually tapping into some sort of
something around her, just pulling energy out of the air and doing it.
I liked her intensity, and it was in her movement, it was in her eyes. So I think I will give the most credit to the performance. The character in terms of use was fine and functional for me. I think most of what worked because she played it well.
I'm actually going to mirror pretty much all that. And so,
cool.
Yep.
A moment of agreement.
Nice that we agree on something.
All right.
It felt like she had multiple functions in different scenes. Like she was just there to show them their dark fears and have them turn on each other. And then she was there to be badass, sort of telekinetic, like Street Fighter. And then she was there to have that breakdown so Hawkeye could snap her out of it and kind of turn the tide and deliver probably the funniest little line.
I have a crazy thought, which is, why did we need them?
Okay, so this I think gets into Ultron's motivation. Like we said that motivations and thoughts, like we said we have to get into. Because he gets so upset when they turn on him. Just because he wants to destroy the human race doesn't mean he doesn't want someone to agree with him.
He is Tony Stark's id. Tony wants to be loved. He wants to be appreciated.
And he wants to be right.
Yes.
Well, so that's a character reason why he wants them around. But structure-wise, are they actually necessary?
No.
There are 2 macro reasons, but not really any micro reasons, like for in-story.
Yeah.
Macro reasons is, first one is Joss wanted to play with new power sets, and he wanted to introduce characters from the comics that he grew up reading.
Yep.
The other macro thing is actors' contracts are coming up. The end of this movie was set up. They're like, okay, what's going to be the next generation of Avengers?
Can we go into Ultron?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just start.
One of the things that fascinates me about him as a character is like you said, it's not the cold equation, humans must die.
Yeah.
This is an angry intelligence. You know, the fact that he can be calm and quippy, and then all of a sudden he'll lose his temper and he'll chop off a guy's arm.
It's an immediate childlike response. In as much as he has total awareness of humanity,
he has no experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is Vision agrees with Ultron that humanity is doomed. You know, the difference is Vision doesn't want to bring about the doom of humanity. He's like, I'll stick around until it happens. You know, it's fun to be with him.
Which was actually a moment I really liked, because there was a nice melancholy to that moment.
So my favorite moment with Ultron came in the very beginning, where we see his genesis. And we see him in the broken robot. In that moment, I loved the character.
I kind of wish we'd taken longer to get to a proper body for him.
And my problem was, I was like, there's a lot I like about this. I like how scattered his thoughts are. I like that he's not fully understanding what's going on. I love it when he killed Jarvis. And then the next time we see him, he's got a body, and he's the refined James Spader.
I feel like the moment that we got with the roided out Ultron should have been the first time that we saw him in a fully functional proper body at all.
It would have raised the stakes even higher.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like the movie hit its emotional height, I'm going to say, probably midway through Act 2, and it just stayed there. Once they left the safe house, it was just that's where it was going to be.
In terms of like tone and pacing and some of your complaints,
yes,
I felt like there were quiet moments, quiet scenes of one-on-one that were really well written.
Yeah.
And then there were rip your eyes out action sequences, and there wasn't a whole lot of in between.
Well, I mean, there was, 4 major action sequences when you think about, you know, you have the initial battle on the Hydra base.
Yep.
Then you go to Africa and you destroy that city. Then you go to Seoul, destroy that city.
And then back to Savoca.
And then you go back to Savoca and you really destroy that city. Each of those sequences had to be at least 15 to 20 minutes in length. That's 100 minutes of action in, you know, a 2.5-hour movie. You know, that's a lot.
Question for the group. The use of humor.
I think Joss Whedon just generally is very good at injecting humor without killing the pacing. Because if I'm to make a comparison, there were moments in the climactic battle fight of Thor: The Dark World where they literally stopped the scene to make a joke, and even though it was some of the best jokes, I wished they weren't there because they killed the momentum. And I didn't feel momentum death.
When Hulk jumps into the jet and you just hear Ultron off camera.
Oh, for God's sake!
And then he just gets thrown out of the plane. It's like...
I felt like there were a couple of points where during the action sequences, when the use of humor to kind of create levity either felt flat or felt strangely inappropriate. When Cap and Thor save the 2 cars, or the people on the cars, from falling off the bridge, and when they come back and Cap is like, what were you, napping? Or something like that. I was like, just get out of this scene. I actually thought during the Hulkbuster scene, every time Robert Downey Jr. tried to make a joke, didn't work on me. When he was like, in the back banner, dick move, I was like, shut up.
But there's one that had worked. Come on. When Hulk spit out the tooth and he just went, I'm sorry. I can't.
One of the things I think Joss Whedon does really, really well is make you care about these characters and give us these moments where we can connect with them. First one is the hammer sequence, which I loved. It's fun. There's also some stakes here, right? Which is that, and it plays out later, but somebody might be able to pick up this hammer, and the fact that it moves a little and Cap touches it,
and Thor's face,
you see the color drain on his face.
It's like,
and when Cap gives up, Thor is just like, ha!
And I'm like, I like these guys. I like seeing them just sort of being together.
Which also made it the perfect point for Ultron to just come in and just throw everything out.
Right.
The other one is the love affair between Banner and Natasha.
Which I'm surprised how well that worked. And I suspect that largely came out of just chemistry that the actors had, because to the best of my knowledge, there's no precedent for that one in the comic book.
So my favorite moment from the first Avengers film is the moment where Widow sees what the Hulk really is.
When he hulks out in front of her and she's terrified.
And she's scared.
And it's a monster movie.
And it's such a good moment because it looks so real, right? And I'm afraid for her, and she's running for her life. And so when she goes to approach him later, she's still scared of him, right? You can see she's cautious with him, but she cares about him. And the first time she says that weird phrase about how, sun's going down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I really like this. I'm like, I really, and so those were the moments of the film that I really treasured.
I was fine with the romantic subplot between them and the coupling them together. I thought they flirted well together. I liked their banter. And again, going to the chemistry and everything like that. I liked the way it was written when it was just them exploring a budding relationship. When it got to be them talking about just quitting and going away, it broke for me. It didn't work for me.
It didn't break for me, but I do kind of wish they hadn't taken it to that step. I was reminded in a certain way of the animated Justice League, where there was a lot of flirting and a lot of implication of Wonder Woman and Batman, but they never actually definitively paired them off romantically. And I kind of wish it had been kept at that level, that there's obviously something there, but if they ever pursue it, we don't need to spend time in the movie dealing with it.
I thought the chemistry was forced, and it felt like the reason that was there is when he went nuts and destroyed the African city. When he did that, I said to myself, okay, end of this film, he's going to disappear because he's afraid of what he can be. And it seemed to me like, oh, okay, well, to have that have more emotional impact, let's make the stakes personal.
I can kind of see what you're saying, but I'm going to disagree slightly with what I think the intent might have been was to give somebody a personal reason to go after him. Not so much that the loss of him would be more personal, but that it becomes more than just, well, suppose we ought to round him up now, but that somebody actually cares about finding him.
And I think the Hulk story is a sad story. I don't think that he does get to have, these sort of long-standing relationships. I think he is a character that is plagued by this dual nature. And I think that him running away, I was like, when he turned off the camera, right, and he's in the plane by himself, I'm like, oh, this is the end of the TV show, right? This is him walking down the road, the sad music. I'm like, this is who he is. Like, his life is sad. Superficial things. I loved Cap's costume.
Finally.
Oh my God.
They've gone for 4, and this was the best.
Yep.
I really did.
Superficial thing, I didn't like Ultron's mouth movements. Something about it didn't...
Yeah.
Too fluid.
Yeah. It seemed like Hawkeye his quiver ever even lose any.
No. I hated the fact that the Ultron robots were so easily dispatched. And this happens, and I know it happens, but once again, it felt like we were fighting this just horde of faceless enemies, and all you have to do is kind of punch them or poke them or knock them over.
Well, it's the inverse ninja law. One ninja on his own is indestructible. 40 ninjas easily dispatched by the hero.
Yeah, right. There were a few moments, by the way, where I really appreciated that they slowed the action down for us. And like when they were around the drill, and
it was the spinning shot.
Like it's
very slow.
It was just one of those things. It's like, thank you. Like there's just so many hundreds of action movies you could point to where the action's so fast, it's exciting, but you can't see a damn thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say the Deus Ex airship.
I liked that they brought the kid who was controlling those was the kid from The Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I found myself on two minds of that, because when it first showed up, I'm like, that's a little cheesy, but I then kind of became a sucker for the fact that it was the original helicarrier and not one of the new ones that they came up with. And because it fed into what I talked about before, which is that it's there so that they can save everybody, and because it fed into something that I liked, that was an aspect that I liked so much, I was willing to be forgiving.
Yes.
Yep.
The mid-credits scene.
All right, we get Josh Brolin, we get our Thanos.
It was just there.
Yeah, you had to have it, so we know what Infinity War is going to be about.
Okay, this just felt like a reminder.
But that's the thing. And I've had this argument with you before, because you were annoyed at the Howard the Duck joke at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. But I will make the argument that there have only ever been 2 post or mid-credit singers that have mattered. One was at the end of Iron Man, where we see Nick Fury and he says the Avengers Initiative, and the other was mid-credits on the first Avengers where we see Thanos because we didn't know that he was coming. Other than that, none of them have mattered.
Other previews or foreshadowing.
Well, we had Claw, which obviously will feed into Black Panther.
Everything about Thor's Vision Quest and everything that he went off on is going to play off in Ragnarok.
Yeah. Well, they name dropped Hell.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, you know, obviously Hell is, you know, heaven, hell, but no, Hell with one L is a realm that Thor has had to deal with in the comics. Yep. There is a fair amount of play up of the divide between Captain America and Tony Stark.
And that's why the end kind of surprised me, because I was like, they seem way too comfortable with each other in this final scene.
I kind of took it as the adrenaline hadn't worn off yet.
That moment where Cap walks in with Widow to see the Avengers B group,
2.0.
Right. I was like, now it feels like Cap's in charge. And they're getting Tony out of the way. Overall, I really like this movie.
Did you? To the surprise of everyone who's been paying attention.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of problems with it, but I'm glad I saw it. I really want Spider-Man to be in an Avengers film, and for the life of me, I could not find room for him. And I am really worried about trying to shoehorn him in.
That actually goes to the point that I was going to make, which was at no point during this film did I think Spider-Man belonged in here. And if Spider-Man shows up in the Avengers Infinity Wars movies, cool, I want to see him, but I don't want him on the Avengers. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. It had problems. I can see those. Yep. The problems bothered me less than they bothered you.
I mean, overall, like I said, I can see Whedon much more in this film than I could in the first Avengers, and I think that's a good thing. His writing was more prevalent. You know, his directorial choices were more clear. Having seen this, I would now love to see Whedon do a Christopher Nolan, where no second unit. Let me see him do his movie and his movie alone. Because if he can manage to put this much of his stamp on a movie that is part of the Marvel Universe, give the man $200 million and
well, he won't be able to do that for a Marvel Studios production. He'll have to go somewhere else to do it. But I agree.
I think from scene to scene was clunky at times, but aside from that, I just had a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining us. What were your thoughts on this thing? Do you agree with the folks who liked it more? Do you agree with certain insane people who had more issues? Whatever your thoughts were, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.